One of my favorite places in the world is the Coachella Valley. Palm Springs, Palm Desert, Rancho Mirage, Indian Wells. The valley is thriving as new residents move in. There are mountains and arid desert blended in an oasis of mixed architectural styles. And that's blended with cultural influence from music to fashion and everything in between. I love the Coachella Valley because as a teenager, I would go to Palm Springs for spring break, something then Mayor Sonny Bono did not care for, and eventually drove us out. That is as a teenager. Then it was the architecture, followed by Coachella Music Festival combined with Stagecoach. The La Quinta Resort remains my personal favorite place to recharge and reflect. It's an oasis. It's amazing. So I'm really pleased to head back there virtually to share my conversation with Elyssa Contardo, SoCal native and Coachella Valley-based designer. She actually has two offices, one in Palm Desert and the other in Park City, Utah. And we discuss both locations and their emerging status as design-forward locales. Really incredible if you think about it. Palm Springs is an incredible oasis in the wintertime because the weather is just perfect. And in the summer, it's a little unpleasant. Utah, it's the winter there too that is amazing, but also the summer because of all the things you can do. Both seasons, both locales, just incredible places and incredible backdrops for amazing design and architecture. So check the show notes for links to Contardo's work, especially as we walk through some of her projects. And you're going to hear all about it right after this. At the highest level of design, the absolute best specifying designers, architects, landscape designers are all highly focused on the technology and performance of products and materials today. You have to, because the products you specify for your projects have to perform and they have to last. That's one of the reasons why I am so proud to be working with TimberTech. Their focus on the technical renaissance of synthetic decking is literally changing the conversation about innovation and performance. It pulls focus on three priorities homeowners have and expect from the products their designers and architects specify for their luxury projects. 1. Aesthetics must match the overall design and fit visually. 2. Durability and maintenance. I've told you about my board flipping stories from my own wood decks. Clients not only want beauty, but they want ease of use, and they want it to last for decades. 3. Sustainably made. Clients are more conscious of the environment now, and they want the same of their materials. TimberTech hits each one of these elements with a product that not only meets expectations, they exceed them. TimberTech makes a synthetic decking that looks just like wood, color and embossed wood grain for a natural appearance. Their composite decking is technologically superior, as it has been created to last for decades, and it's manufactured with up to 85% recycled material. Their advanced PVC, vintage, and landmark collections have a Class A flame spread rating, making these products an amazing choice for wildfire-prone areas, which unfortunately continues to grow on the risk map. Check the show notes for more information about this and to find the nearest showroom or lumberyard where you can find TimberTech, or you can check them out directly, timbertech.com. You should know that Coachella Valley, Palm Springs, La Quinta in particular, is one of my favorite places on the planet.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because Southern California is home. And I grew up in the San Fernando Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this way different take than anyone who is not my age. But Palm Springs for spring break
Yeah.
used to be the place. I don't even know. Has it come back? Is that still a thing?
I mean, I feel, so I'm more on the Palm Desert side, but Palm
Yeah.
Springs definitely still has like the Bachelor, Bachelorettes and the
Mm.
part, it's more of a lively. neighborhood than my side of town, but yeah, it's definitely there, you know.
Yeah, but the La Quinta Resort is kind of like my happy place.
Yes, it's very tranquil.
It's very tranquil.
Hmm.
And it was made for celebrities back in like the 1930s or 40s. And that's why they have like 43 different pools. So
Yeah,
if you have one that's, you have rooms that encircle each of the pools, and if one's crowded, just go find another one. It's the coolest thing. And the spa, I love that place.
I know. That's why it's funny. There's so much history here with Hollywood, but do you know why all the stars used to come to Palm Springs?
Well, from what I understand, it was A, to get away,
Yeah.
and B, I mean, just to get completely out of Dodge from Hollywood.
So back, I don't, back in the day when it was really popular with Hollywood, the contracts for the stars back then, they can only be a certain amount of miles away from LA during filming.
Oh,
I
interesting.
know. Yeah, so I learned that actually. I remember because I grew up in San Diego, went to school in San Diego. We did a school field trip out here, and we went to Frank Sinatra's house and Bob Hope's house and all these stars' houses. And I learned that on that field trip, but it was quite remarkable because it influenced so much of the architecture and history here.
Oh, absolutely. Hey,
Yeah.
listen, I'm curious. Do you do you think that that field trip or those field trips or that experience influenced you and maybe gave you a little nudge into design?
Yeah, well, it's funny. Not a lot of people went on that field trip, but when I graduated, so I graduated in 2008 during the major recession, and it was funny. The firm that I was lucky enough to get an internship with, all of their work was out here in Palm Desert. Like it kept them going during that time because there was the Bighorn Country Club and then Madison Club where we did a lot of work. And so that's what brought me out here 5 years ago. When I was working still I've worked out here in Palm Desert for 16 years, but I actually moved out here 5 years ago. But
Oh, okay.
definitely,
So by
mhm.
that time you were already on your path.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Hmm.
got it. Okay. All right.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
really interesting too, because when you look at Palm Springs, that whole Coachella Valley, Palm Springs in particular, is just really interesting to me because it's one of those areas in the country, in the world, really, where you have this concentration of a very specific, particular type of architecture, type of
Mm.
design, is sort of an ethos, if you will, that goes from the 1940s to current, but was lost for decades between like the late 1980s and the early 2000s. It was
Hmm.
lost, just lost. And
Yeah.
then all of these creative types found it and just turned it into something extraordinary. And that's uncommon.
Yeah, for a while it was pretty barren, and when I first came out here like back in 2008, it wasn't what it is now. They definitely have revamped it and it's growing so much. And there's all the pool houses going or pool wait. Like there's a lot of growth out here. I think that COVID brought a lot of growth out here as well though, too.
Yeah, it's interesting though. And I wonder, do you think that the area has reached its saturation point, or is there still room for
No.
growth?
No, it's funny you say that. Like I feel like yes and no. Like, but then I read all these articles. There are still a bunch of new communities popping up. There's one that's a new one out in La Quinta, Crystal Cove, and then the Disney community is gonna be going in. I don't know if you've heard about that. Are you aware of
No,
that?
no.
Oh, it's a whole, it's a whole Disney community. Like Disney's building all the housing, and there's gonna be a mall and hotels and everything. But it's Disney themed.
Okay.
I know. So we're getting,
Okay.
so that's coming to but you know what? Joshua Tree is getting more popular, I'll say.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. But listen, here's the thing, and I'm not bashing it. It's funny because I have found over the years that there's an art to creative criticism, right?
Mm,
Or constructive criticism or positively influenced criticism. I think anti-social media has completely taken away the context. So either you're being snarky and mean, or you're just pumping up something for the sake of pumping up. Here's what I think. I think when I was a kid and we used to go to Disneyland, if we're
Yeah,
talking about Disney, and
I know.
we used to go to Disneyland, it was a remarkable experience.
Right.
If you try to go to Disneyland now, it's not a remarkable experience.
No, far from it.
And I think that that's what big companies do is they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing until you reach that point where it's no longer fitting the need or what. Now, they still make a boatload of money, so they're not going to change it. The reason we're having this conversation is because I think it's really interesting. It directly affects someone like you who, your career is based not exclusively there, in other areas as well.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I have always been so enamored with when it comes to design and architecture is the ability for creatives to think about wellness,
Yes.
well-being,
Yes.
to making the lives better of those who employ their services. And I also believe that not nearly enough people use designers and architects to help them construct the environments that they seek. How do you have conversations with first timers, especially where you are, where the cost basis is so high?
Well, for me, it's really important that I don't really have a signature look, and I'm okay with that. My clients come to me, and I feel I'm very intuitive and understanding and compassionate towards my clients. I understand that I'm not the one that's going to be living in this home when we're done with the design. This design that we're creating is an environment, a space that I'm creating for this family and their needs. And if they're the grandparents and they want a special retreat for their grandchildren, if this is our dream home. I have a client that's doing a remodel. She's saved images for 10 years of a remodel, and that we're getting everything, so it was a lot to sift through, but this is her dream remodel that she's been dreaming about for 10 years. So it's like, how do we curate it? How do we get the best of it and then purge the rest that would clutter it? And so every client's different of mine. I work for developers as well, and that's different. How can we get the best look for the most cost effective that's going to appeal to the largest amount of people? So everyone's different. All my clients are different. And what I bring to the table with them is curated towards them and their experience, because it's definitely an experience as well. And I want them to enjoy the process and love the end result.
Have you found it more challenging? So you're on El Paseo, which,
Mhm.
by the way, I absolutely love that. It's funny. I wish as a design district, I wish it was bigger.
I know.
You know what I mean?
So yeah, unfortunately, I know it's gone. When I first used to drive out here, I loved it and dreamed of having my studio in El Paseo. And now I'm there and I'm like, I recently go to Park City in my fish and they have just a few more streets, like a little wider, like more of a grid. And I'm like, that'd be nice. A little more grid, you know. We just get like
Yeah,
one loop, half loop, you know.
yeah, yeah. No, totally.
Yeah.
I think, sort of circling back to something you said, that you don't have a particular style, which is fine, listen, it's interesting. Over the years, I've had these conversations where I've come to realize that, and I've kind of changed my own thinking recently,
Yeah.
where, you know, years and years ago, I spoke to Bunny Williams, who told me that she doesn't have a design style and she actually doesn't want, the type of environment built where somebody would walk in and say that that was a Bunny Williams design.
Hmm.
I kind of got that. Like, I understand you're a designer. You want to design what your clients want, not what you want. Totally get it.
Yeah.
But then I've spoken to others who say, you know what? This is what I like. This is what inspires me.
Right.
This is what I want to surround myself with. And I'm starting to see the value in that too.
I see value in it's just kind of my experience and what clients I get. I will say I do have a common theme. I mean, sophistication, timeless. It's not trendy. I don't like cool colors. I don't like things that are certain super busy. There's something that across all my projects, you'll see similarities, but it's not like that one specific style that people are coming to me for. But I think that like I can get into my clients' heads, I can see a few images on their Pinterest boards or images they've saved and elevate it. And, if something was too gaudy or too this and that, I can bring it down and more timeless, but still be glamorous. And if it's too, or, so there is a there is a something there's some similarities in all my projects, but not one style, I'd say.
I call that the fingerprint.
Yeah.
So while you won't have matchy from project to project, we can look at your work and we can see a fingerprint. We can see a
Yeah.
through line.
I like that.
What would you say are some of your signature through lines?
Well, if a house has two powder baths, I always do a light one and a dark one, a yin and yang. That's just something I like to do. I don't like furniture that's too thin. In my early career, the demographic that I designed for was an older demographic. And so comfort was a huge part of the design. Also, it to be looking, it was desert contemporary. So it couldn't be, gaudy, but it needed to be comfortable. The seat heights needed to be, you need to be able to get in and out. Things couldn't be too deep. My clientele likes to sit at the dinner for hours. So my dining chairs have to be comfortable. It's not these small wood dining chairs. I see a lot of designers now, and I'm like, my clients wouldn't sit in that for 2 hours at dinner conversing with their friends. Like my clients like to entertain and they host and it's experience. So everything needs to look good, but also be very comfortable and timeless because they're not changing things out, every 3 years. Like these are timeless design that's going to last for a long time. So it's definitely a high-end curated look, but there's certain, the arm widths, seat heights. There's certain things that are very important to my designs that I look for when I'm pulling furniture for my clients.
You are listening to my conversation with Elyssa Contardo, and we will be right back. The most important word in the design industry today is service. Product, incredibly important. Price, important. Selection, incredibly important. But stellar service is the premier idea that can make all the difference in the success of any project. This is how design professionals like you demand great service for your projects. And you get your favorite brands in one place with expert, knowledgeable, and non-commissioned professionals to help you specify the right product for each of your projects and get the best price. Non-commissioned, that is incredibly important. And at Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, that means their only incentive is your satisfaction. Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, has just that with over 60 years of service in Southern California. Pacific Sales is your destination for exploration, advice, inspiration, all the best brands, great prices, the best in the industry when it comes to service, and you know it's reliable. You know that you are going to get predictable results, reliable results every time. And now you have the Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home team to help you with their Pro Rewards program, which is a trade program unlike any you've ever experienced before. Earn 3% in Best Buy e-gift cards or 2.5% in a reward check for every qualified and delivered sale, in addition to special trade pricing, exclusive offers, access to exclusive special events, and so much more that I can't even begin to try and list it all here. And here's the cherry on top. Access to exclusive builder trade incentives from top brands and the stellar service you deserve from a company that has been serving the industry for over 60 years. Now, terms and conditions apply to the Pro Rewards program and builder trade incentives. So visit a Pacific Sales expert at a showroom today for full details and learn how you can unlock additional savings and benefits. Don't miss out on the opportunity to work with the best of the best. Visit Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home today and elevate your projects to new heights. The Design Hardware Showroom is a space where specifiers can go and find an incredible selection of high-end faucets, luxury tile, natural stone, wood floors, and bespoke hardware, and so much more. Select products are presented in a holistic manner, strategically arranged to stimulate creativity and transition your vision from the conceptual stage to a fully realized space. You will find everything you're looking for, even the products by brands you didn't know you didn't know. Surprise and delight. Am I right? All under one roof on 3rd Street in Los Angeles, just up the street from the Grove. Conveniently located, free parking available. Stop by to find inspiration, collect samples, get expert advice, and tackle everything on your specification list all in one place. Visit them online at designhardware.com, at Design Hardware and Flooring on the socials, or in the real world, 6053 West 3rd Street in Los Angeles. So as we use that as a stepping stone to this next subject matter, which is one that's near and dear to my heart because I despise it so much, is the trendiness of design.
Yeah.
Over the past, let's call it 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like, and listen, I've said this before, that there's nothing wrong with trends.
Right.
Trends indicate a trending behavior, likes, dislikes. Things gain popularity based on people's preferences, and when somebody finds something that really works and they start shouting it from the mountaintops, other people grab onto it. That's human. That's a human condition. Like, that's human behavior. Totally get it.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, because the quote unquote huge air quotes influencer, these are just people who are judged by the number of followers that they have, right? Not by what they
Yes.
know.
Right.
So they can tell people, hey, this is the greatest new thing, and there will be people who will go out and buy it.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
No,
How do you address that?
this is so funny that yes, because someone online can say that this is great design, and it's not. But because of the following nowadays, people will think that it is. It's almost educating my clients and people around me. Actually, these are the flaws XYZ in that item, and you won't be happy in the long run. And it's just, having that conversation. And then once my clients and they get it really fast. Like, oh, you're right. But it's not even, it's just like the media or something. Like, you're told something, and if you don't know, but you don't know what you don't know. You know what I mean? So doing this 16 years and, going to as many markets as I have, sitting in as many things as I have, and all of the, the calls of things that have gone wrong I mean, I've definitely learned a lot. And so I think that I have a lot of knowledge that I bring to all my projects and clients. And so they trust me. And so when I say, no, that's not the best choice, they understand why.
Yeah, that's fair. So speaking of markets and shows, where do you go? What are some of your absolute go-tos? And do you go to some shows every year? Do you spread some shows out? What's on your calendar?
I don't go to the certain ones every year. Sometimes I feel like I'm seeing the same thing. I like to go to Europe a lot more to get to find the more unique brands to bring to show to my clients, because they want what, not everyone can get. And I feel like as a designer, it's my responsibility and my duty to my clients to be bringing them and showing them things that they can't get anywhere else. And so, you know, and also the trends don't change quickly enough in a year to go every year. So, it really just depends on my workload at the time. I definitely am going to go to Italy in April. I've been to the Paris market a few times. I want to go to the Dubai one in September, November, I think it is this year. Because I was going to go last year, but it was just too hard with all the Christmas installs. Because for season out here, it's crazy.
Yeah, I bet. Well, but that doesn't change.
No, I know. I just got, I know. It never does. No, I haven't gone away for Thanksgiving for 16 years. No, I know. I know.
Yeah, you're gonna have to move if you want to do that.
I know.
That being said, changes this year,
Mm-hmm.
politically, uh, trade wise. For instance, if you're looking at many of the brands now, they have already sent out price increase
Mm-hmm.
notifications. Do you do a lot of kitchens?
Yes, we do. I do a lot of remodels, a lot of new builds, a lot of kitchens. Yeah.
So you have gotten all of the notifications
Mm-hmm.
that prices are going up.
Mm-hmm.
With that, with tariffs on the horizon, with the absolute savage wildfire destruction in Southern California.
Yeah.
And I bring that up because it's not an issue right now,
Yeah.
because people aren't ordering new refrigerators, they aren't ordering new appliances now because they don't have homes. But
Right.
as we get into this next 6, 12, 18, 24-month cycle, there's going to be a shortage. There is going to be a shortage. How do you, of not just appliances but materials,
Right.
subs, pretty much everything? How do you address that, and how do you plan for that, and how do you talk to your clients about that?
Well, I guess not. I mean, I guess we kind of had a little practice with that with COVID, I guess we could say, and that have bring that experience to the table. Um, it's just kind of honestly, it's just being very frank and open and honest. I mean, I'm 100% transparent with clients. I can forward them emails. I mean, these are the lead times, and this is what is happening. It doesn't, I mean, sometimes, frustration is frustration, and I don't try not to take it personally. It's just the whole situation. And also, it's just such a sad thing to watch to see what has gone on in LA. It definitely will affect people, but also they're going to be rebuilding from nothing. They have not, I don't know. It's just going to be really emotional. There's not going to be really a way around it. I mean, people are just going to have to be patient and understand. And I hope, with appliances, they put price locks and things like that. So I hope that they all do the right thing and don't raise their prices, you know?
Yeah, but realistically, I don't see how they can do that. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're talking about a brand that's coming in from Mexico or that's coming in from Europe, right? And the price is what it is, but then all of a sudden there's a 25% tariff attached to it, plus there's a kink in the supply chain
Yeah.
because everything coming to Southern California is already spoken for. Man, I can't imagine an environment where the appliance company is going to say, the brand's going to say, hey, listen, you know what? We're going to eat this 25%. I just don't see that happening.
No, neither do I. Do you know anyone that was affected by that whole perch debacle?
Oh, yeah.
Me, yeah,
Oh,
I had four, it was it was insanity. And I can't believe that I had to go through that with some clients as well after COVID. So, yeah, I hope that everyone does the right thing, you know?
you know what? It's funny. I don't often, you know, talk about show partners during these conversations. It's just not something that I regularly do. I don't shoehorn them in.
Yeah.
But because you mention it,
Yeah.
it is interesting because one of my partners for Convo by Design is Pacific Sales, which
Hmm.
is a Best Buy company.
Yeah.
And I, I have to tell you that it was such an incredible learning experience
Oh, yeah.
for me, because it was this black and white. Like, you saw what happened with that particular company that you mentioned,
Yeah.
but then I see what the folks at Pacific Sales did. And there, listen, there are other great partners out there, but this was my experience, and this was what I got an opportunity to see. Is they
Mm.
kind of ran into the burning building, and
Hmm.
they were just saying, how can I help you? What can we do? Let's get
Yeah.
on the phone with so and so. But it was something that I don't feel, that was a situation that I don't feel like the design industry is used to.
No, I mean, I will say the lesson I learned from that though, because they ask for 100% upfront on all the, which I know other companies do that I know. But so moving forward, I ask all my clients to use a few different credit cards as well. So the transactions are not as large and to only do 50% just to
So
protect them.
let me ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
Serious question, and I'm just, because it's hard. You've been doing this for 16 years.
Yes.
Over those 16 years, you form bonds, relationships, strategic partnerships. You get to trust people. You start, you get to work with them, and you're working with somebody who is kind of setting the hair on the back of your neck on edge a little bit, where they're like 100%, you have to do this, you have to do that. If something goes wrong, that's not just an oops, that's catastrophic.
Yeah.
At what point do you evaluate the partnerships that you have with all of your brand partners and manufacturers and
Oh,
showrooms and suppliers? How do you
well,
work through that?
my number one priority are my clients, to protect them and get them the best deals and this and that. So all of the vendors and the subs, I'm sorry, but they don't, that is second to me being a good designer and honest with my clients. So I'm always looking out for them. Even, I do a lot of project management and this and that with all the subs. A lot of my clients are not local. So I'm kind of their eyes and ears while they're not here in town. And, these people are letting us into their homes. Like they really have to trust us. And I want them to, like, I take that very seriously. Like me and all of my staff, they know how I feel about that. And so even to work at my firm, I have to know and have a good intuition of their character. That's very important to me. So with that being said, with all this stuff and then of the vendors and like, all the reps that I work with, I have to feel the same way about them. If I feel a little off, or maybe if I feel someone's a little in it for themselves a little too much, I'll choose not to work with them.
Interesting.
Mhm.
How do
But it's a
you
bigger picture. Like we're all need to be in it together, you know?
Yeah, but we've seen Laurel and Wolf, um, Mitchell Gold, Bob Williams, Perch, a couple of others.
Yeah.
There have been some landmark closures, and you know what? I don't think we're at the end of it.
Yeah. I just like I disperse, like I said, like how we now have transactions with our subs and vendors, more like I use more credit cards. I put smaller transaction amounts on each of them. I tell my clients to do the same thing. That's really all we can do is to protect ourselves because we don't know what we don't know at the end of the day.
Now you work with a great deal with builders
Yes.
and developers, contractors.
Mhm.
So do you generally offload major purchase, appliance purchase to them, or is that something that you like to handle yourself?
No, we don't purchase appliances and plumbing. The warranty, there's no sense for it to run through my company. So
Okay.
either the builder or the client's buying that direct.
Okay. So that's not something because there are some companies that do.
There are, correct. The warranty and then the liability, that's why we've never done it.
I see.
Mhm.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when, and then the other question is if your clients are doing the purchasing, so when you go to a manufacturer, when you go to a showroom rather, do you go with your client?
Depends. Yes and no. I mean, sometimes I'm shopping with them, sometimes I'm specifying it and then emailing them the package. Or some of my clients are very involved and they know exactly what they want to every refrigerator drawer, every ice drawer. They're very versed. This is their seventh house. And so, it's across the spectrum.
And I asked the question too because it's really interesting because you know doing this show for 12 years now
Mhm.
is really interesting because, as you might imagine, the conversations, well, look, you've been in the business, the conversations change every year.
Yeah.
It's really interesting what we're talking. I can I can draw back to the year when bathrooms went from being just bathrooms to being like super luxe. Like
Yeah.
that spa like experience is what a modern bathroom is now. We can go back to
Right.
2017 when you look at the absolute explosion of the multi-kitchen home, right?
Mhm.
Because things keep changing. And now it's kind of the it feels like the industry is looking inward as it relates not so much on the architects or the builders, but the designers are kind of looking at their business model now. And they're
Yeah.
starting to look at, maybe I need to go back to this hourly basis for compensation because over the years trying to get compensation here and working on a cost plus or whatever the business model is, and there have been so many podcasts out there that are talking about, well, here are all the different business models. i
Yeah.
don't do I don't do business models. It's just not something that I like to talk about generally.
Mhm.
But in this case, I'm curious, Are you rethinking the way that you charge, the way that you operate the business?
No. So I feel like I've done a lot of research. I've gone to a lot of seminars. I've discussed with many designers for many years. Everyone, and that's why I feel like I wish it was more, there was a more like set way. I feel like it's a wild, wild west when it comes to interior design. It's kind of annoying. Like, lawyers charge this way, a doctor charges this way. It's very black and white. And I almost feel like it's a disservice even to the industry because then clients who work with multiple designers, they kind of never know what they're going to get. And that's just the way it is. So I feel comfortable with what my studio does. I know that other people do things a different way, but we do what works best for us.
What is your model?
Hourly. It is
It is
hourly.
hourly.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so it's hourly on like if it's a new build, I could do a set fee because it's very black and white. If it's a spec home, I can do a set fee. If I don't have an end user and I'm, knowing that I might have one or two, three revisions from the investor, this and that, and I know that we can, what, you know what I mean? And I know it's going to go into it. So if it's very black and white, we can do a set fee, and I'm happy to do that. If it's gray, I can't, you know what I mean? Because we just don't know. So that's how we work. So I guess, yeah, we do both. It just depends on the scope and then also the end user.
Interesting. Um, you know, it's funny, we were talking about trends a little bit and sort of this trendy nature of design. Your relationship with your builders and developers. I'm fascinated by these relationships sometimes because you've got this three-legged stool. You really do, four-legged a chair. If you think about it, you've got designer, developer, builder, architect, landscape architect, right?
Mhm.
So that's what encompasses, especially if you're talking about a new build. Have you found yourself not necessarily encroaching, but moving into other spaces? Do you do exteriors? Do you do any of the build yourself? Is that something that you imagine your firm doing in the future?
We do design exteriors. We actually just won a pool award design for a project here in the desert. I never want to encroach on someone's space. So if the project, when we are brought onto the project, has a really set, like this is the architect and this is the landscape, we all work as a team. I love a solid team. I am a team player. I'm not ever gonna go out of my lane. Like I definitely like it to be copacetic and I'm respectful of the team. Um, a good team just makes the project stronger. Now, if there wasn't a landscape designer like on some of my projects, we will do it. Like, of course we'll do it. But, I really value my relationships with design, builders, architects, and developers. And so it's always like, what value can we add to the project? How can we make things easier for them? How can we streamline things? Like, our specification packages are really thorough and solid. We meet every deadline. I don't ever want anyone to be unhappy with us. So I take those relationships and those projects very seriously. They're very important to me. And those relationships that we've curated over the years, like I value them and I value, the opportunity to work with everyone that we do.
How do you convey your vision to the builder slash developer? And let me preface it with this. There are some absolutely incredible developers out there,
Mhm.
incredible builders. I have immense respect for what they do. The one thing that I've seen, which is why I'm asking about this, is if there's one point of contention, one point of conflict that I have seen with regularity, and I think this goes back to the Stone Age when they were decorating the first cave. I think when there's this push and pull, but even on the highest end luxury side, between those who are paying the bills to have the project completed and
Mhm.
those who are trying to install, if you will, the vision for what that final project looks like. How do you overcome? And I guess this goes to client too, having that budget versus project conversation.
So I like to get ahead of that, our specifications, and we design a project before it's even starting to be built usually. And so we design it so thoroughly and specify everything. We hand that off to the contractor so he can actually bid everything completely. So then we all know, like, okay, we need to shave here, we need to shave there. We can go through all the line items and be proactive about that. I don't want anyone to ever get caught, a year, 6 months down into the project and be like, this was over designed, these finishes are too expensive. I've learned and done this for and like since I've worked on spec homes, model homes, high-end luxury, it's all a numbers game to me, really. Like, and because of my past, I know how to get that end result and still have it look really well. So, instead of using real stone, we'll go to porcelain. It's all these little things like that. And really, like I said, it's like a numbers game at the end of the day to me. So we just shave here, 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 and then we're all happy.
You know what's funny is I haven't necessarily heard it phrased that way before,
Yeah.
which I think is great. I think that, especially now in the built environment, because it has gotten so expensive. I mean, look, you and I both probably remember the day when you could get a really nice kitchen for $50,000.
Right.
There was a time when you could actually do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that anymore.
I no, and for me, it's really important to alleviate a lot of the stress of the job and the unknowns and the numbers to my clients. So I'd like everything up front. This is what can happen. This is what can go wrong. Also, I always let everyone know that there's a solution to every problem. I don't go to my clients or build, I don't ever just like drop a bomb on someone with a problem without a solution. It's like, I don't know who does that and like why. It's like you call someone and tell them like, oh, this is backward, this was damaged, da, 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 I'll call you back. It's like figure out the solution and then have the call. I don't understand that.
Well, it's funny. I understand it.
Yeah.
No, I do. I do. I think, um,
You can't be so emotional reactive. You kind
yeah,
of have to take a breath. I'm always very calm too. Like I want to have that calm energy for my clients so that they feel calm. It's really important not to feel like, or running around a job site like with a chicken with his head caught up. You want to be like, everything's fine because it will be fine. And when you release that, create, that energy, then everyone goes down with you. you know?
that is so
So
true. That is
yeah.
so true.
Yeah. And it's, I wasn't always like this, but definitely like I sleep fine at night. I'm calm. I'm not reactive. Like, if I feel like I'm gonna send a crazy, like put my phone away. I don't know, maybe a lot of yoga to help me get here.
I hear you. No, I hear you. Absolutely. And by the way, I think that there's a method and a process,
Hmm.
um, similar to practicing yoga, where
Yeah.
you have purpose and you have intention.
Yes.
And you know what's interesting? It's so funny that you bring that up. I just got off the mat 15 minutes ago,
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah, and I'm thinking about that. This purposeful intention, and
Yeah.
what is your intent for your practice? Well, a firm is the same thing as a practice, and you're trying to accomplish certain things, and you're battling against certain factors out there, and you're trying to not just wrap your head around it so that you can understand it, but figure out as a designer how to calmly relate it to the people who really do have the greatest at stake. These are big dollars that we're
Yes,
talking about these days. It really is.
it is.
And I think the pandemic it kind of extended the aggravation and the intensity because prior to COVID, if something went wrong with an appliance, it's like, oh, yeah, got it. Sorry, wrong one. You know what? Let's swap this one out. And in
Right.
most cases, you could do that.
Yeah.
But when you're on an 18-month wait list, you can't do that anymore.
No.
And it
Mm-mm.
changed the way people thought about it. And they put this higher level of importance on things. Do you know what I mean? Like this, it has to
Yeah,
be
I'm just thinking back to all this. I mean, definitely was a challenge and it was hard, but like, we can't. we can't change what we can't change. It's like when we get the verbiage or this and that, it's like it's almost kind of like this is the new world we're in. And so we all just have to, and appliances are not ordering a package off Amazon. So, people, you know what I mean? And that's also what I explain to clients as well. It's like, it's not like I'm just going online and hitting checkout. It's so different even ordering a custom sectional. I'm like, it's about 5 purchase orders that went into the sectional. And it's it's 5 different vendors bringing everything together. So it's honestly, it's educating people and
Yeah.
it's being just really upfront, and we're all just doing our best. Like that's why I do my best on all my projects with all my clients. And then
Yeah.
I will say though, in the kitchen remodel, if something's back ordered, and if the dimensions fit, like a dishwasher, this and that, and my clients don't want to wait, then yeah, let's reselect it. But if you want that Bosch or you want that Thermador and we need to wait, then wait for what you really want, is what I tell people too. Like, don't like start cutting corners or this and that. Like, just be patient.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So, shifting gears on you now, turning the page a
Mhm.
little bit to one of my absolute favorite things to do.
Mhm.
And per usual, if you're listening, go to the show notes and you can click on Alyssa's website. There'll be a link to it. Go to the work page, and we're looking at some of your projects.
Okay.
And the first one I wanted to go to, just because I find it so, it's really interesting in just how clean and subtle this is. This which one am I looking at? I am looking at the Rancho Mirage Retreat.
Oh, we don't even have the newest photos up for that one. Yes.
Well, which is what I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
So this is not lived in.
And no, it was a remodel. And so then we just photographed it. So I think that's the renderings that are still on the website, but we
Okay,
have the
okay. I'm
photographs.
so glad you sent. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you said that because
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out if it was real or rendering or a combination thereof because it has the tools that are available now
I know.
are just incredible.
Yeah.
So I actually wanted to ask you a couple of things, but before I do, tell me about this project.
This was a great project. So we actually did all the architecture as well on this one. And so we did the landscaping, we did the pool design, it was a full remodel, full guy. I think it is about a 12,000 square foot house. We did all the lighting, we did all the finishes, and I actually designed this house in 3 months. Yeah.
Wow.
Had to get it to permitted, and there was a tight deadline for the investor. So yeah.
Are all of the images on here renderings or any of them real?
I think there's a few real, but we have the whole house shot now, so I need to get them all up on there.
Okay, so a couple of questions.
Mhm.
This wine cellar.
Yes.
Wow.
Thank you. You should, yeah, I think that's so the ceiling turned out, are you looking amazing? It's like, so I designed a dark gray mirrored ceiling and square panels, and we did LED lighting around all of them.
Are the shelves lucite?
Yes.
So you get that floating push through light effect from it, which I think is
So
amazing.
yeah, so what's funny is that before that wine room was there, it was actually 2 storage rooms. So there was just a
Mm.
solid wall, like, like in between the dining room and the bar. So we removed those walls and actually made it a see-through wine room to let more light through. And so when you're walking down the hall, you can see what's going on in the bar, the game room, and then the dining. So it kind of feels like you're a little more united.
And it's hard to tell because I think I'm looking at some of the rendering pages, but one of the things I see a lot is the LED channels
Yes.
that you use in your lighting.
Yes. So this house was European contemporary influenced. Lighting, the materials were a little more simple and cohesive throughout the house. So the lighting was definitely the star of the home. So we used a lot of LED lighting on this house.
That is very, very cool. Shifting to, hold on, which one was I looking at? The Madison Club,
Hmm.
La Quinta.
Hmm.
Is this one completed?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about this project.
So that one I worked on with an architect, Gordon Stein. He's really well known here in the desert. And so that was a really great project. There's actually, so the fireplace, we used a Japanese sand plaster that goes up and there's mica shells in it. And so, it was such a big fireplace, such a big wall to kind of, we didn't want to use all stone, wood, or, there's wood paneling on going up the stairwell. So just something that was really earthy and a nice texture. So that was just like the best complement and material to the stone and wood to just add something else. And it's in person, you having the mica shells reflect in the sun. It's so pretty.
It's really great. It's funny because one of the things that I feel like the Coachella Valley has in its own, you know how there are certain locations that have their own look.
Yes.
You know, if you go to Barcelona and you've got just this wildly eclectic yet somewhat cohesive, if that makes any sense. It's
Yeah.
so confusing that it makes sense. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Or
Yeah.
LA, California with that laid back California style. But the Coachella Valley, one of the things that I absolutely love is that it almost doesn't matter where you are in the valley, you've got views.
Oh, yeah, and that's what everyone comes here for is their view. It's
Well,
stunning.
not necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of reasons you go to the desert.
Oh, yeah. But a lot of my clients, the view of the mountains are really important to them because wherever else they're coming from, and because when people come here, they stay at their house. They don't really go out. Like my clients, like they really like to stay and enjoy their property. So the views are really important to them.
That or golf course views,
Right.
or
Golf
or
course. Yeah.
or desert views, or I mean, it's just one of those things where I feel like the tapestry, the light is different in the Coachella Valley.
100%. And actually, I always sound like things go a lot darker in the houses here too. The fabrics, the paint colors, and this and that, because the shadows are so much more dramatic here and the cantilevers on the buildings. Yes, the lighting is different here.
And it's hard for some people to realize, Arizona, parts of Arizona, like Scottsdale and Phoenix, not so much Tucson for me, and I can't explain why, but
Mhm.
like Scottsdale in particular kind of has that same desert lighting vibe.
Yeah.
But Golden Hour
Oh,
in Palm Desert, Palm
yeah.
Springs, Rancho Mirage is just extraordinary.
It's almost like I always say it's like a little magical.
It is.
It is. It's magic. It's like a little majestic. You get the purple, like it's that hour, and then like the early morning sunrise. It's the prettiest times of the day here.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting too, because when you're looking at something like the luxury townhome development, do you know which one I'm talking about?
Is that the one? Was that the park? That one's in San Diego.
This one says luxury townhome development.
Yeah. Is that the one? That one? Yes, I know which one that is.
And there's a shift here. It's funny because part of this is a game for me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out, like, if we all of a sudden went to a Utah project, I'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, we're in Utah. But
Yeah, I'm excited. We're working with a really great architecture firm, Payne Cole, on a few in Park City right now that we're really excited about. And they're a great firm, so we're excited to be working with them.
I know what it's like building in California. It's very, very challenging. It's very, very difficult. What's it like in Utah?
Um, we're just starting out there. So I haven't completed a full one. So we'll see.
What's the buildup been like to it so far?
Exciting. Like I said, we're working with a great architecture firm. So we're just helping them getting a few going right now.
How do you how do you choose where you want to go next? How do you smartly expand as a firm? It's really interesting because again, through the pandemic, I think this was a first where people started experimenting with e-design,
Yeah.
virtual design, remote design, which are all very different things. Then you realized that if you're going to be working on a project in Utah,
Hmm.
but you're based in Rancho Mirage or Palm Desert, you're going to have to either travel or get a project manager or just have a person to do everything from delivery to product check to I
Yeah.
mean everything to working with the trades, everything.
Yeah.
How do you evaluate that for your
Well,
firm?
for me, I have a history of going of Park City. I've already been I have vacation there, gosh, for how many years? Like 20. I had history there. So it wasn't just completely random. And so for me also, originally being from San Diego and then coming to Palm Desert, now I've been here for 5 years. I will proudly say I am not doing another summer here ever, ever. I still have PTSD from last summer. And so for me, it was kind of like, what do actually like really evaluating what I want. Because sometimes design, and I'm sure that anyone else's career can get a little hectic and like you kind of go down on these rabbit holes of what ways you're pulled. And you can just wake up and be like, okay, now it's been 3 years and like I've just been pulled so many different directions, right? Without an intention or plan. And so last January, I had a different intention and plan. Like, what does, I know it may sound cheesy, like, what does Elyssa really want? Like, what do, like, I'm almost 40. Where is my life going? It was one of those days, right? We all have them. So, so
Yeah.
that's how I ended up in Park City.
Well, yeah, but it's interesting too because I think that you winding up in Park City, where you've been before you vacation there, like you said, so you
Yeah.
kind of understand what's happening. It's interesting because when we moved to Oklahoma
Uh-huh.
from LA, when we wound up in Tulsa, there were things that I didn't factor
Mm,
into the experience. You
mm,
want to talk about PTSD from a summer. Our first summer here
mm.
was actually really nice. And then the second one, it was just blazing,
Oh, it's
right?
different.
It gets hot here. It's the
Yeah.
Midwest. But here's what's interesting. You'll go from heart of summer, 108 degrees with 70, 80% humidity
Yeah.
to dead of winter, 5 degrees, 10% humidity.
Yeah.
And what that does to a home, what that does to furnishings, what that does to wood, what it does to a house, what it does to everything. FF&E just it's amazing to see what humidity does to things, the
Yes.
materiality of things.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel too like Utah is one of those situations where Palm Springs with the heat, Utah with the cold, I
Mhm.
feel like you're probably learning a great deal about the materiality of things and what's available to you.
It's funny. I already like kind of knew, like, I've already researched on like all of the materials that they use and like I've gone to the showrooms. I started going to them before I got projects there to see how people source and what they use, just to know it from my knowledge. And what they use is a lot of the same here. And for the desert, people, it does get cold. And even like the wood flooring, like before we put it in the house, it needs to, because of the heat and the cold, we have to put it in the garage for a week first to acclimate. So all the same things are kind of used there. And, sealing the stone, this and that, it's all the same materials that are used in both places. But I will say, we didn't just expand to Park City. We have work in Napa as well and some in Scottsdale. So that's kind of like my little circle, but it's a really like, for me, it works because they're all direct flights. And so I can be back, I can do a 24-hour site visit, this and that, and be back in 24 hours to the desert. So it's the same as driving to LA for work.
Yeah, yeah, I could see it. But it's funny because, and just it's a slight correction, but a correction nonetheless. Palm Desert does not get cold.
Well, like it gets in the 40s, 30s. No, it does get in the 30s. It gets in the 30s in winter.
Yeah. No, I hear you. It does not get cold. That's what I'm saying. Like 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
it was 5 here, but it felt like 0.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cold.
Yeah. It's not that, but for people, I think that some people think that the desert never gets like cold, but like
Yeah,
30 degrees, and it just snowed on the mountains here. So
yeah.
like, I think that, I mean, coming from, I guess because I'm from San Diego, so 30 degrees is cold to me, you know?
Uh, Look, I'm with you. Native
Yeah.
Angelino. Up until about 3 years ago, that was cold to me too.
Yeah. But I've been going to like I said, I actually the cold. I prefer the cold to the heat though, because in the summers here you're like lethargic. I was needed to get IVs. No one can get a day of work done. When it's cold, you're like running in and out of places. You're like fun, like you have more energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're more
No, 100%.
productive,
That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true.
right?
If
Yeah.
if you could, and I've sort of been throwing this in lately and having a lot of fun with it. I'm calling this manifest design.
Mm.
If you could manifest a project that you have never done before, that you would really like to, what's on your bingo card? What is something that you would absolutely, what kind of project would you absolutely love to do that you haven't done before?
So I've done a golf club. We did the Bighorn Golf Club. I've done a car lounge, the Vaults, which was an amazing project as well. I think, and I've done a lot of high-end homes and also, luxury townhomes. I would love to do a boutique hotel. That would be super fun. We haven't done that yet, and that would be a fun project.
Are there any on the horizon in the Coachella Valley that you know of?
No, I mean, there's always great boutique hotels out coming up here. Actually, there might be one that we might work on because I did the model homes for a community over here, and they were talking about building a hotel. Um, so that could happen.
It's the funniest thing. This idea sort of evolved because I was talking to a designer in Manhattan Beach,
Hmm.
where I lived for many years. And it was one of the most remarkable stories just because of how it happened. Um, this designer, Noelle Isbell, was working, she lived in Manhattan Beach and noticed that Bruco, which is a local restaurant, was getting ready to be redone.
Hmm.
And she went to Michael Zislis, who of the company, the development company that has that restaurant, and she took him a plan. She
Oh,
wasn't
really?
invited. She wasn't invited. She'd
Yeah.
never met him. She
Yeah.
walked in and said, "I heard you're redesigning Bruco, and here's what I think it should look like."
Hmm.
He hired her,
Crazy.
and she wound up doing it. And
Yeah.
it's a beautiful design, and we wound up talking about it. I, have you ever done anything like that?
I haven't taken a plan, but I've definitely like no, definitely have to you be your own advocate. I
You
mean, like
do.
things don't just fall. I mean, nothing has just fallen on my feet, like ever. I mean, you definitely have to put yourself out there and meet with people. I don't want to use the term network, but I mean, you have to be so, it's like things just don't happen, you know.
And I think, you know what, spot on. And I think nowadays people wait for something good to happen to them. And I think you have to go out and get it.
Oh no, you have to be so I mean, I'm proactive, like half of last year was me making new relationships and connect, you know what I mean? Like it was a lot. Luckily, I have a really great team while I was traveling a lot, but it didn't just happen overnight either. I mean, this was, it was a lot of work to
Yeah,
expand.
yeah, for sure. Elyssa, this was a blast.
Thank
It kind of
you.
flew by, but this was so much fun. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for the time.
Thanks for having me.
Elyssa, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to talk. Absolutely loved it. Thank you to my incredible partner sponsors, TimberTech, Pacific Sales, and Design Hardware. Amazing companies and great friends to the trade. So please give them an opportunity. And thank you for listening, subscribing to the show, and sharing the show with your colleagues that you think might be interested. If not already subscribing, please consider doing so that you receive every new episode automatically the moment it's published to your podcast feed. And I would like to encourage you to reach out. If you have show suggestions or guest suggestions, please send them to me. I love hearing your suggestions. convobydesign@outlook.com, and join in the conversation on Instagram at convobydesign with an X. Until next week, thank you for sharing this time together. Until the next episode, be well, stay focused, and now that it has arrived in earnest, try to rise above the chaos. Seriously.